Red lights flashed through every corridor of the research vessel Harmony's Edge. The emergency siren wailed its haunting tune, echoing off metal walls as crew members scattered in all directions. Alex finished labeling the last specimen container and looked up from the biology lab workstation. Confused by the sudden chaos outside, through the lab's transparent door, Alex watched as Kira, the ship's navigator, sprinted past with her feathers standing straight up in obvious panic. Her bird-like feet clicked rapidly against the floor plates as she clutched a data pad to her chest. Behind her, Ren, the security chief, moved with surprising speed for someone of his large-scaled frame. Even Tova, whose crystalline body usually moved with deliberate grace, was hurrying toward the emergency shelters with uncharacteristic urgency. Alex stepped into the hallway and called out to the nearest crew member. "Hey, what's the emergency? Fire drill?" The crew member, a small amphibian from the engineering team, took one look at Alex and let out a terrified croak before diving into the nearest emergency hatch. The heavy door slammed shut with a metallic clang that echoed through the now empty corridor. "That was weird," Alex muttered, walking toward the bridge to find out what was happening. The ship's communication system crackled to life with Captain Orland's voice. "All crew members report to designated safety zones immediately. This is not a drill. Repeat, this is not a drill. Predator escape protocol is now in effect." Alex frowned and picked up the pace. Predator escape protocol meant there was a dangerous creature loose somewhere on the ship. As the xenobiologist, Alex should have been notified immediately about any potentially dangerous life forms. The last planet they had visited was supposed to be uninhabited except for simple plant life. The bridge doors slid open as Alex approached. Inside, the usual buzz of activity had been replaced by an eerie quiet. Captain Orland stood near the command chair, his tentacles wrapped nervously around the armrests. His large, dark eyes fixed on Alex with an expression that seemed like a mixture of fear and confusion. "Captain, what's the situation?" Alex asked, stepping onto the bridge. "What kind of predator are we dealing with? Did something get brought up from the surface during the last sample collection?" Captain Orland's tentacles went completely still. Behind him, the few crew members who remained on the bridge slowly turned to stare at Alex. Their faces showed the same expression Alex had seen on the amphibian in the hallway. Pure terror. You don't know?" Captain Orland's voice came out as barely more than a whisper. "Don't know what?" Alex looked around the bridge, noting how everyone seemed to be keeping their distance. "Captain, I need to know what we're dealing with so I can help contain it." "Is it venomous? Aggressive? How big is it?" The silence stretched on for what felt like forever. Alex could hear the soft hum of the ship's systems and the distant sound of heavy doors sealing throughout the vessel. Finally, Kira's voice came through the communication system from one of the safe rooms. "Captain, is the human secure?" Alex blinked. "The human? You mean me? Why would I need to be secured?" Captain Orland's tentacles began to tremble slightly. He exchanged glances with the other bridge crew members, who had all moved to positions behind protective barriers or near emergency exits. "Alex," the captain said slowly, "the Predator escape drill, it's for you." "For me?" Alex laughed, thinking it was some kind of joke. "That's ridiculous. I'm not a predator. I'm a scientist. I study other life forms, I don't hunt them." The captain's large eyes never left Alex's face. "You have forward-facing eyes," he said quietly. "Well, yes. But you show your teeth when you're pleased. It's called smiling. And you consume other living creatures for sustenance." Alex felt a growing sense of unreality. "Lots of species are omnivores. That doesn't make me a predator." Kira's voice came through the speakers again, sounding strained. "Captain, please confirm the human's location. We're reading movement in Corridor 7 and the proximity alarms are going off." Alex looked down at the communicator and spoke directly into it. "Kira, it's just me walking around the ship. Why is everyone acting like I'm some kind of monster?" The sound that came through the speakers in response was something between a chirp and a scream. Then silence. Captain Orland cleared his throat nervously. "Alex, perhaps you should sit down." "I don't want to sit down. I want to know why my friends and colleagues are suddenly afraid of me." Alex's voice carried a note of frustration that made several bridge crew members flinch visibly. The captain noticed their reaction and raised one tentacle in what Alex had learned was a calming gesture. "Please, Alex, your voice. When you're upset, it carries what we call the hunting tone." Alex stared at him in disbelief. The hunting tone? Captain, I've been working with this crew for 8 months. You know I wouldn't hurt anyone. We know you choose not to hurt anyone, Captain Orlan corrected gently. But Alex, you must understand. In all the galaxy's known species, yours is the only one that evolved as a persistence predator. The only one that hunts by chasing prey until it collapses from exhaustion. The only one that can look at another creature and calmly decide whether it lives or dies. The bridge fell silent again except for the soft beeping of various instruments. Alex felt a strange disconnection from reality, as if the familiar bridge had suddenly become an alien place. But I study plants, Alex said weakly. Captain Orlan's expression was almost sympathetic. Yes, you do. And that's what makes you even more terrifying to most species. A predator that chooses to be peaceful is still a predator, Alex. Perhaps the most dangerous kind of all. 3 hours later, Alex sat in the ship's common area, surrounded by crew members who maintained what they obviously considered a safe distance. The emergency protocols had been lifted, but the atmosphere remained tense. Everyone seemed to be watching Alex's every movement with a mixture of fascination and fear. Tova, the crystalline engineer, had positioned herself near the exit. Her body caught the light from the overhead panels, creating rainbow patterns on the walls as she spoke. On my homeworld, we have legends about the Deathwalkers, beings who never tire, who follow their prey across endless distances until it falls from exhaustion. Those are just stories, Alex protested. Humans aren't some mythical monsters. The stories are about humans, Kira said quietly from her perch near the far wall. Her feathers had finally settled down, but she still looked ready to flee at any moment. My people have records going back thousands of years. Humans were the first species we encountered that made us understand what true fear was. Ren, the security chief, leaned against the wall with his massive arms crossed. Despite being twice Alex's size and covered in natural armor-like scales, he seemed uncomfortable. My species evolved from apex predators. We were the hunters on our world. But even we know better than to challenge a human in single combat. Alex looked around the room in growing disbelief. You're all being ridiculous. I've never fought anyone in my life. That's what makes it worse, Ren said. You don't fight because you don't need to. Everyone already knows you would win. Captain Orlan entered the common area, his tentacles moving in what Alex had learned was his version of a careful walk. Perhaps it would help if we explained what the rest of the galaxy knows about humans. He settled into his specially designed chair and began to speak in the measured tone he used for official reports. Humans are the only known species to evolve on a world with such diverse and dangerous predators that they had to become more dangerous than anything else to survive. Your planet has creatures that can kill with venom, others that hunt in packs, some that are ambush predators, and others that rely on brute strength. And humans learn to beat all of them, Tova added, not through evolution but through intelligence and persistence. Kira spoke up from her corner. The records from First Contact describe human soldiers. These were humans whose entire purpose was fighting other humans. My people couldn't understand why any species would fight itself so constantly. We fought to protect people, Alex said. Wars are terrible things that we try to avoid. You try to avoid them now, Captain Orlan said. But the galaxy remembers that humans spent thousands of years in constant warfare, developing new and more efficient ways to kill. And when you finally achieved peace among yourselves, you turned that same strategic thinking toward exploration and science. Ren pushed off from the wall and began pacing, though he kept his distance from Alex. Do you know what other species call human military tactics? Impossible strategies. You do things that no sane creature would attempt and somehow they work. Like what? Alex asked, genuinely curious now. Attacking uphill, Tova said immediately. Every species knows you never attack an enemy that has the high ground. Except humans do it regularly and win. Fighting outnumbered, Kira added. Most species retreat when facing superior numbers. Humans seem to see it as an interesting challenge. Captain Orlan nodded. There are recorded cases of single humans defeating multiple armed opponents through what your species calls tactics, and what the rest of us call impossible magic. Alex shook their head. Those are extreme situations. Most humans never fight at all. That's the truly terrifying part, Ren said. A human shopkeeper or teacher or artist might be completely peaceful their entire life, but they still carry the genetic memory of a species that clawed its way to the top of a food chain, filled with creatures designed to kill. Tova's crystalline form shifted as she leaned forward slightly. On my world, we have philosophers who study fear. They say the most frightening predator is not the one that must kill to survive, but the one that could kill and chooses not to, because you never know when that choice might change. But it wouldn't change, Alex protested. I would never hurt any of you. We believe you, Captain Orland said gently. But belief and instinct are different things. When you focus intently on something, your eyes narrow and your body becomes very still. To us, that looks exactly like a predator preparing to strike. Kira made a soft chirping sound. Yesterday you were examining those plant samples and you had that expression. I had to leave the lab because every instinct I had was screaming that I was about to be eaten. I was just concentrating, Alex said weakly. Human concentration looks like hunting focus to the rest of us, Ren explained. You get the same expression whether you're solving a mathematical equation or tracking prey. The room fell quiet for a moment. Alex looked around at these beings who had been friends and colleagues just hours ago, trying to understand how such a fundamental misunderstanding had developed. What about human children? Alex asked finally. Surely you don't think our children are dangerous? The silence that followed was answer enough. Tova spoke first. Human children play games that involve hunting, fighting, and strategic thinking. They compete constantly even in activities that have no survival benefit. They practice throwing objects at targets, Kira added, and they seem to enjoy it. Captain Orland's tentacles moved in what Alex recognized as embarrassment. There are videos in the galactic database of human children as young as 5 years old, learning to fight with their hands and feet. The commentary describes it as character building. Alex put their head in their hands. Those are sports, games, they're supposed to be fun. Yes, Ren said quietly. And that's what makes them so frightening. Humans train for combat as entertainment. Alex decided that the best way to prove humans weren't monsters was to share human culture. The next morning, Alex set up a presentation in the ship's main conference room, determined to show the crew the peaceful, artistic side of humanity. I want to share some of our music with you, Alex began, activating the ship's audio system. This will show you that humans appreciate beauty and harmony. The first song Alex chose was a classic piece about overcoming challenges and never giving up. Alex smiled as the powerful melody filled the room, expecting to see understanding and appreciation on the crew's faces. Instead, Kira had pressed herself against the back wall, her feathers standing up straight. Ren's hand had moved instinctively to where his sidearm would normally be. Even Captain Orland looked disturbed. Turn it off, Tova said urgently. Please turn it off. Alex stopped the music, confused. What's wrong? That's one of our most inspiring songs. Inspiring for what? Kira asked in a shaky voice. It sounded like a battle cry. The rhythm matched human marching patterns, and the voice had that same intensity we hear when humans are determined to achieve something. It's about perseverance, Alex explained. About not giving up when things get difficult. Ren slowly removed his hand from his side. That's exactly what makes it terrifying. Humans sing about never stopping, never surrendering, hunting down their goals until they achieve them. That's predator behavior set to music. Alex tried a different approach. Okay, let me show you some human art instead. This will demonstrate our appreciation for beauty and peace. Alex displayed a famous painting showing a human figure standing triumphantly on a mountain peak, arms raised toward the sky. The figure was silhouetted against a dramatic sunset, conveying a sense of achievement and wonder. The crew stared at the image in silence. The human has conquered the mountain, Captain Orland observed quietly. No, they climbed it, Alex corrected. It's about exploration and achievement. The mountain looks dangerous, Tova said. Why would someone go to a place that could kill them unless they were hunting something? For the challenge, Alex said. For the experience of pushing yourself beyond your limits. The crew exchanged glances that Alex was beginning to recognize as their, the human just said something terrifying look. Kira spoke up hesitantly. Humans seek out dangerous situations. For fun? Well, when you put it like that, Alex paused. Look, let me try something else. Human stories. Surely you'll understand those. Alex pulled up a collection of classic human fairy tales and began reading one about a small person who defeated a giant through cleverness and determination. The story was meant to show that intelligence could triumph over brute force, and that even the smallest person could be a hero. As Alex read, The crew became increasingly agitated. By the time the story reached its climax, where the clever hero defeated the much larger opponent, Ren was shaking his head. "This is a training manual," he said. "You're describing tactical scenarios where a smaller predator defeats a larger one through superior strategy." "It's a children's story," Alex protested. "You teach tactical thinking to your children through stories," Captain Orlan said, his tentacles writhing with what Alex now recognized as anxiety. "This explains so much about human behavior." Alex tried one more approach. "What about lullabies? Songs we sing to babies to help them sleep. Surely those are harmless." Alex began singing a gentle melody about a baby rocking in a tree. The song was soft and soothing, exactly the kind of peaceful music that should prove humans had a gentle side. Halfway through the song, Kira made a choking sound. "The baby falls from a great height?" "It's metaphorical," Alex said weakly. "Human parents sing to their infants about falling and surviving," Tova said in amazement. "You're conditioning them from birth to be unafraid of dangerous situations." Alex sat down heavily in the nearest chair. "You're misunderstanding everything. These are about hope, love, courage." "Yes," Captain Orlan said gently. "Human concepts of love include being willing to fight for someone. Human courage means walking into danger without hesitation. Human hope is the belief that you can survive anything if you refuse to give up." Ren nodded slowly. "Every human virtue we've observed has a predatory component. You're generous because you're secure in your ability to acquire more resources. You're helpful because you're confident you can handle any threats that helping might bring. You're curious because you're not afraid of what you might find. That's not—" Alex started, then stopped. Put that way, it did sound rather predatory. Kira had moved slightly closer, though she still kept her distance. "We're not saying these are bad things, Alex, but you have to understand how they look to species that evolved as prey animals." Alex thought about this. "What about human art that shows suffering or sadness?" "We have plenty of that." "Yes," Tova said immediately. "And it usually ends with the human character either overcoming the suffering through determination or dying in a way that inspires others to fight harder. Even human sadness is strategic. Human entertainment involves watching other humans compete against each other," Captain Orlan added. "Sports, games, contests of skill. You've turned conflict into recreation." Alex remembered something. "What about human comedy? People laughing together? That's not predatory." The crew was quiet for a moment. Then Ren spoke up. "Human humor often involves someone being embarrassed, hurt, or defeated. And humans show their teeth when they find it amusing. Smiling isn't threatening," Alex said desperately. "Humans are the only species we know that displays their primary weapons as a sign of pleasure," Kira said. "Every other species hides their teeth except when threatening or attacking." Alex looked around the room at these friends who were seeing human nature from a completely different perspective. Every attempt to prove humans were peaceful had somehow reinforced their image as sophisticated predators. "Is there anything about humans that doesn't frighten you?" Alex asked quietly. The crew considered this seriously. Finally, Captain Orlan spoke. "Your capacity for sacrifice. The willingness of humans to give up their own lives for others, even for strangers or other species. That's not predatory behavior." "But it is," Tova said thoughtfully. "It's pack behavior. Predators that hunt in groups will sacrifice themselves to protect the pack. It just means humans consider us part of their pack now." Alex put their head down on the table. "There's no winning this, is there?" The discussion about human nature was interrupted by a harsh buzzing sound that echoed throughout the ship. This wasn't the smooth tone of the emergency drill from the day before. This alarm was jagged, urgent, designed to cut through any other noise and demand immediate attention. Captain Orlan's tentacles went rigid as he activated the bridge communication system. "All crew to emergency stations. We have incoming vessels of unknown intent." Alex felt a familiar sensation wash over them, the heightened awareness that came with potential danger. Without thinking, Alex stood and moved toward the conference room's tactical display, fingers dancing over the controls to bring up external sensor readings. 3 ships, Alex said, analyzing the data. Medium size, heavily armed. Their approach vector suggests they're trying to avoid our sensor sweeps until the last moment. Classic pirate tactics. The crew stared at Alex in fascination and growing alarm. While they had all frozen at the sound of the emergency alert, Alex had immediately begun gathering information and analyzing threats. "How do you know they're pirates?" Kira asked, though she kept her voice quiet as if afraid to distract Alex from the analysis. "Formation pattern, approach speed, and they're broadcasting jamming signals to disrupt our communications with nearby systems," Alex replied without looking away from the display. "They want to isolate us before making contact. That means they're not here for peaceful trade or diplomatic reasons." Captain Orland's voice came through the speakers again. "Unknown vessels, this is the research ship Harmony's Edge. Please state your intentions." The response was immediate and harsh. "This is Commander Vok of the Red Claw fleet. Prepare to be boarded. Resistance will result in the destruction of your vessel." Alex's expression changed in a way that made every crew member in the room take an involuntary step backward. The friendly, curious scientist they knew seemed to fade away, replaced by something focused and calculating. "Red Claw pirates," Alex murmured, still working at the tactical display. "Known for taking prisoners to sell as slaves. They typically board ships with overwhelming force and execute anyone who resists." "We should surrender," Tova said, her crystalline form shimmering with stress patterns. "Our defensive systems are no match for 3 warships." "No," Alex said simply, and the tone of voice made Ren's scales stand up along his neck. Alex turned to address the room, and for the first time, the crew saw what they had been afraid of. Alex's eyes held the focused intensity of a predator that had identified its prey. The expression was calm, calculating, and absolutely terrifying. "Ren, what weapons do we have available?" The security chief found himself answering automatically, despite every instinct telling him not to give a human information about the ship's armaments. 2 defensive plasma cannons, basic shield generators, and emergency hull sealant systems. Engineering access to the main power core? Yes, but good. Kira, I need you to calculate precise flight paths for evasive maneuvers. Can you plot a course that uses the nearby asteroid field for cover? Kira's voice came out as barely more than a whisper. Yes, I can do that. Alex was already moving toward the door. "Captain, I need you to open a channel to the pirates. What are you planning?" Captain Orlan asked, though his tentacles were already moving toward the communication controls. "I'm going to negotiate," Alex said, and somehow that sounded more threatening than if Alex had suggested opening fire immediately. The channel opened, and Commander Vok's voice filled the room. "You have 1 minute to drop your shields and prepare for boarding." Alex stepped up to the communication panel. When Alex spoke, the voice that came out was nothing like the gentle, curious tone the crew was used to. It was calm, measured, and carried an undertone that made everyone in the room want to find somewhere to hide. "Commander Vok, this is the human aboard the Harmony's Edge." There was a long pause. When Vok responded, some of the confidence had gone out of his voice. "Human? Yes, I wanted to give you an opportunity to reconsider your current course of action." Another pause, longer this time. The crew could hear voices arguing in the background of the pirate transmission. "One human doesn't concern us," Vok finally said, but he didn't sound as certain as before. Alex smiled, and every crew member in the room felt their survival instincts scream warnings. "Commander, I'm looking at your ship configurations right now. 3 vessels, probably 40 crew members total. Your lead ship has weak points in the port shield generators. Your second ship is running with engine problems that affect your maneuverability, and your third ship is carrying too much armament for its power core, which means it's running hot and will have to cycle its weapons systems." The silence from the pirate channel stretched on. Alex continued in that same terrifyingly calm voice. "I estimate that with proper tactics, this research vessel could disable or destroy all 3 of your ships within approximately 8 minutes. Your crew would have multiple opportunities to surrender during that time, of course." "You're bluffing," Vok said, but there was uncertainty in his voice now. "Am I?" Alex asked. "Commander, how many humans have you encountered in your career?" "This is the first time," Vok admitted. "Then you have no basis for comparison. Let me ask you this. Do you know why humans are the only species that hunts other humans for sport?" The crew watched in horrified fascination as Alex delivered what sounded like a perfectly reasonable question in a tone that made it sound like a threat. "Because we're very, very good at it," Alex continued. "Good enough that we had to make rules to keep it interesting." The pirate channel went silent for almost a full minute. When Vok spoke again, his voice had changed completely. "Red Claw fleet is withdrawing. We apologize for the misunderstanding." Alex nodded as if this was exactly what they had expected. "Thank you for your cooperation, Commander. Safe travels." The external sensors showed the 3 pirate ships changing course and accelerating away from the Harmony's edge at maximum speed. Alex turned back to the crew, with a bright smile that made them all flinch. "Well, that went better than expected. Anyone want to grab lunch?" The crew stared at Alex in complete silence. Finally, Captain Orland found his voice. "Alex, what would you have actually done if they hadn't retreated?" Alex looked genuinely puzzled by the question. "Exactly what I said. Disabled their ships and given them opportunities to surrender." Alex paused, considering. "Although I probably would have started with their engines rather than their weapon systems. Less chance of accidental casualties that way." The crew exchanged glances, realizing that Alex had just casually described a tactical plan that could have worked against overwhelming odds. "You had it all figured out," Ren said quietly. "The whole battle plan." "Well, yes," Alex said. "That's what you do when someone threatens your friends. You figure out how to stop them." And in that moment, the crew finally understood what they had been afraid of all along. The aftermath of the pirate encounter left the ship in strange quiet. Alex had returned to the biology lab as if nothing unusual had happened, humming softly while organizing specimen containers. Meanwhile, the rest of the crew gathered in small groups throughout the ship, processing what they had witnessed. In the engineering section, Tova worked alongside 2 junior technicians, her crystalline form casting shifting patterns of light as she spoke. "The human protected us," she said quietly. "Did you see?" When faced with a threat to the crew, every response was defensive. "Defensive?" squeaked one of the technicians. "Alex threatened to destroy 3 warships." "No," Tova corrected, her form pulsing with thoughtful colors. "Alex offered the pirates multiple opportunities to retreat safely. The threat was only if they chose to endanger us." On the bridge, Captain Orland reviewed the sensor logs of the encounter with Kira perched nearby, her feathers finally settling into their normal patterns. "Look at this," the captain said, pointing to the tactical display. Alex's analysis was completely accurate. The pirates' weak points, their formation flaws, even the power core problems on the 3rd ship. How did Alex see all of that so quickly? Kira tilted her head in the way she did when thinking deeply. Pattern recognition. Humans evolved to process vast amounts of information and identify threats or opportunities instantly. What looks like magic to us is just how their minds work. But Alex has never been in combat, Captain Orland mused. How did Alex know those tactical strategies? Maybe that's the point, Kira said slowly. Humans don't need combat experience to understand combat. They study conflict the same way they study everything else, with curiosity and intelligence. In the security office, Ren sat staring at his duty reports, unable to concentrate on routine maintenance schedules. Everything he thought he knew about protection and defense had been turned upside down in the space of a few minutes. Alex appeared in the doorway, carrying a steaming mug. "Hey, Ren, thought you might want some coffee. You look like you could use it." Ren looked up at Alex, really looked, and for the first time he didn't see a predator. He saw someone who had stepped up to protect the crew when danger appeared. Someone who had done exactly what Ren was supposed to do, but better. "Alex," Ren said carefully. "What you did earlier, was that normal human behavior?" Alex sat down in the chair across from Ren's desk. "You mean facing down the pirates?" "I guess so. When someone threatens people you care about, you do whatever you need to do to keep them safe. But you were so calm about it. You made it look easy," Alex shrugged. "It was a problem that needed solving. I analyzed the situation, identified the best solution, and implemented it. Same process I use for everything else." Ren felt something shift in his understanding. "You see threats the same way you see scientific puzzles." "Pretty much," Alex agreed. "Both require gathering information, testing hypotheses, and finding the most efficient solution. And if the pirates hadn't backed down?" Alex's expression became thoughtful. "Then I would have protected you. All of you. Whatever it took." The simple certainty in Alex's voice made Ren realize something important. His fear of Alex had been based on the assumption that human predatory instincts were selfish, focused on personal survival. But what he had witnessed was exactly the opposite. Alex's most dangerous capabilities emerged only when protecting others. "You really would have fought 3 ships to keep us safe," Ren said. "Of course," Alex replied, looking puzzled that this was even a question. "Wouldn't you do the same for your friends?" Ren thought about his own response to the crisis. He had frozen, waiting for orders, following standard protocols that involved hiding and hoping. Alex had immediately started planning how to win. I would try, Ren said honestly, but I wouldn't have your confidence that I could succeed. That's because your species evolved different survival strategies, Alex said. Yours developed strength and armor. Mine developed persistence and planning. Neither is better or worse, just different approaches to staying alive. Later that day, the crew gathered again in the common area. This time, the atmosphere was different. Instead of fear, there was a kind of cautious curiosity. Captain Orlan spoke first. Alex, we owe you an apology. We've been afraid of what you might do instead of appreciating what you choose to do. And what you did choose, Kira added, was to protect us, even though we've been treating you like a monster. Alex looked around at their faces, seeing something that hadn't been there before, acceptance mixed with a new kind of respect. I understand why you were afraid, Alex said. From your perspective, humans must seem like walking nightmares. But you need to know that everything that makes us dangerous also makes us protective. We're persistent, but that means we don't give up on our friends. We're strategic thinkers, but we use that intelligence to solve problems and help people. We're capable of violence, but only when someone we care about is threatened. Tova's form shimmered with what Alex had learned were colors of curiosity. Your species turned predatory traits into protective ones. We had to, Alex said. Once we became smart enough to understand the consequences of our actions, we had to find better ways to use our capabilities. Humans who used their abilities to hurt innocent people were stopped by other humans who used the same abilities to protect them. Ren leaned forward. So the most dangerous humans are the ones who protect others? Usually, yes, Alex agreed. Because they have the strongest motivation to use all their capabilities without hesitation. The room was quiet for a moment as everyone processed this. Finally, Kira spoke up. We've been thinking about this all wrong, haven't we? The question isn't whether humans are predators. The question is what they choose to hunt. Alex smiled, the genuine warm smile they all remembered from before the crisis. And I choose to hunt solutions to problems, like how to help my friends feel safe around me. Captain Orlan's tentacles moved in what Alex recognized as his version of a nod. I think we're ready to work on that together. 2 weeks after the pirate encounter, the Harmony's Edge had settled into a new routine. The ship felt different now, not because anything physical had changed, but because the crew's understanding of each other had evolved. Alex stood in the ship's main training room, surrounded by exercise equipment that had been hastily assembled from various parts of the ship. What had started as a simple suggestion had grown into something much more significant. Remember, Alex said to the assembled crew, the goal isn't to make you into fighters. The goal is to give you more options when facing danger. Kira, wearing a specially designed harness that wouldn't interfere with her wings, looked skeptical. I still don't understand how physical training will help. My species solves problems by flying away from them, and that's still your best option in most situations, Alex agreed. But what if you can't fly? What if you're in a confined space or injured or protecting someone else who can't escape? Alex moved to the center of the training area, demonstrating a simple defensive stance. This isn't about attacking. It's about buying yourself time and creating opportunities to use your natural advantages. Ren, despite being the security chief, found himself learning things he had never considered. Show me that grip break again, he said. I never realized leverage could overcome raw strength like that. Alex patiently demonstrated the technique. Humans aren't the strongest species, so we had to learn to use physics instead of muscle. The same principles work for anyone. Tova's crystalline form shifted as she attempted to mimic the movement. This is fascinating. You're teaching us to think like predators without becoming predators. Exactly, Alex said. Predatory thinking is just strategic thinking applied to conflict situations. You can use it for defense just as easily as offense. Captain Orlan watched from the sidelines, his tentacles moving in patterns that Alex had learned indicated deep thought. Alex, I've been reviewing the new emergency protocols you suggested. They're quite different from standard procedures. Alex nodded. Standard procedures assume that the best response to danger is to hide and wait for rescue. But what if rescue isn't coming? What if you're the only ones who can solve the problem? You want us to fight back, Kira said, though she didn't sound as frightened by the idea as she would have 2 weeks ago. I want you to have choices, Alex corrected. fighting back is just one option. Sometimes the best strategy is still to hide or run away, but sometimes it's to negotiate or to create a distraction, or to turn the enemy's expectations against them. Alex pulled up a holographic display showing the ship's layout. Let me show you what I mean. We've installed new communication nodes throughout the ship so we can coordinate during emergencies. Instead of everyone hiding in separate safe rooms, we can work together. The display highlighted various sections of the ship in different colors. Green areas are safe zones, places with heavy shielding and independent life support. Yellow areas are tactical positions, places where someone can observe and report on threats without being seen. Red areas are choke points, places where a small group can control access to larger sections of the ship. Ren studied the display with growing interest. You've turned the entire ship into a defensive network. We've turned it into a flexible response system, Alex said. Depending on the type of threat, we can hide, observe, coordinate, or if absolutely necessary, fight back. But the key is that we make the decision together, based on the specific situation. Over the following days, they practiced the new protocols. The crew learned to move through the ship in coordinated patterns, to communicate using subtle signals that wouldn't alert intruders, and to assess threats quickly and accurately. More importantly, they learned to trust each other in new ways. During one exercise, Kira found herself in a simulated situation where she had to choose between following her instinct to flee and staying to help a wounded crew member. With Alex's guidance, she discovered that her natural agility could be used to create distractions that gave others time to reach. Safety, Tuva learned that her crystalline form could refract light in ways that created temporary visual barriers, turning her natural properties into tactical advantages. Even Ren, who had always relied on strength and armor, began to appreciate the value of strategy and misdirection. I'm starting to understand, he said to Alex after a particularly successful exercise. Being dangerous isn't about being violent. It's about being unpredictable. Right, Alex agreed. The most dangerous opponent is one who has more options than you expect them to have. Captain Orlan called the crew together for a final evaluation of their new procedures. I want to run one more test, he announced. Emergency drill, but this time with unknown parameters. The familiar emergency alarm echoed through the ship, but this time, instead of panic, the crew responded with coordinated efficiency. Kira immediately moved to her observation post, using her superior eyesight to assess the threat. Tova positioned herself at a tactical choke point, where her light-refracting abilities would be most effective. Ren took up a defensive position that protected the ship's critical systems while maintaining communication with the rest of the team. Alex, instead of being the threat everyone fled from, became the coordinator, gathering information, analyzing options, and helping the crew choose the best response strategy. Simulation complete, Captain Orlan announced after several tense minutes. Threat assessment, excellent. Coordination, excellent. Response time, excellent. The crew gathered in the common area afterward, and for the first time since Alex had joined the ship, everyone seemed genuinely relaxed. You know what's interesting? Kira said, preening her feathers in a way that indicated satisfaction. I don't feel like prey anymore. None of us do, Tova agreed. We feel like a crew. Alex smiled, and this time no one flinched at the sight of human teeth. That's exactly what I was hoping for. Captain Orlan raised a ceremonial cup in what humans would recognize as a toast. To the crew of the Harmony's Edge. May we never need these skills, but may we always be ready to use them. And to Alex, Ren added, for teaching us that the scariest predator is one that chooses to be a protector instead. As the crew shared their meal together, the ship's computer announced an incoming message from Galactic Command. It was a routine mission assignment, directing them to investigate some unusual energy readings in a distant system. Unknown energy signatures in an unexplored region, Captain Orlan read. Possible first contact situation. Crew should be prepared for any eventuality. The crew looked at each other and then at Alex. Instead of fear, their expressions showed confidence and determination. Well, Alex said, grinning, sounds like we might get to test our new protocols for real. Kira laughed, a sound that had become much more common in recent weeks. I almost feel sorry for anything that tries to threaten this ship now. Almost, Ren agreed. But not quite. As the Harmony's Edge changed course toward its new destination, The crew settled into their duties with a sense of purpose they had never felt before. They were no longer a collection of different species trying to avoid conflict. They were a team, ready to face whatever the galaxy might throw at them, and somewhere in the depths of space, word was already spreading through the pirate networks and criminal organizations. There was a human aboard the research vessel, Harmony's Edge, and that ship was no longer to be considered an easy target. In fact, it wasn't to be considered a target at all.